Everything from an old-fashioned man to Huckleberry Finn with hormones. Would you please welcome the #1 international star, Mr. Clint Eastwood. You got a tough act to follow, you know that?
20th and Plum, I'd say.
20th and Plum.
She's wild.
That really flipped me out because having grown up in small towns, when somebody says you live at 20th and Plum, and as Doc said, that's not the main part of town. Main part of town is First and Main. 20th and Plum is way out.
Yeah.
Well,
She's got more cool than any 10 actors I've ever seen.
Isn't she great?
A piano teacher with double cool.
Well, speaking of cool, they really handed you a spot on that Academy Award night. I thought that was going to be the highlight of the whole awards. I'm really sorry Heston showed up, in a way, but I know the feeling when you're backstage and somebody comes to you and says, Heston's not here. They corralled you, obviously, and said, go out and do the opening stuff, right?
Well, I wasn't even backstage. I was sitting in the audience.
You were down in the
audience? I was down in the audience. I didn't have to worry because I didn't have a thing to do till the very end of the show, which was to present Best Picture.
Right.
And Howard Koch, who's normally a very cool, collected type person, comes up to me and his hands were going up and down like a Singer sewing machine. And he says, Charlton Heston hasn't shown up. Well, I didn't know he was supposed to be on the show, so I said, yeah, so...
Big deal, huh?
Yeah, and so he said, he has to read the whole opening thing. He says, can you come back and do it? And I started to say no, and I was looking around for Gregory Peck, and my wife nudged me and said, go ahead, you can do it for him. And I was, boom!
You were on.
Here I was, you know.
Now, most people probably realize, having seen so much television through the years, that most things are either on teleprompter or cue cards. But it's one thing having seen what you're going to do, and even do it well then, but not having seen it and having to do it cold, would throw the most professional actor, because first of all, you don't know what they're really saying as you come to it, right? You just see each line come up and you don't know where they're going.
They lift a card and you don't know where they're going, plus the fact that he called me backstage and he said, he says, you can do this, and I look at it and it's all written with these biblical terms, and it's written for a man who played Moses, which, needless to say, I haven't done. And then he says, well, I said, I can't do this, Howard. I said, it's absolutely impossible. It's not written for me, and even if it was, I'm not sure it's the right kind of, and then he says, say anything. So I just took the book and he shoved me right out on the stage, and there I was.
I like it when you said, flip the card, this is not my bag. I thought that was, that's what makes television. I miss the days when television was live, where everything was right now, because you had those minor disasters that set in, and as important as they look at the time, they're really not important in the whole scheme of things.
And everybody would look at each other.
The actors would go up in the lines and you didn't know what to do. But that's what makes that kind of a show.
Yeah.
You said yourself, you made a joke to yourself. You said, fine dialogue. They give a fellow who's never said, what, 12 lines and...
I think 3 words.
3 words and 12 pictures or something like that.
I can't remember what it was at the time. I was having a small attack.
What do you say to the critics? You get this all the time because you made a joke about it yourself. I think Time magazine or somebody said you studied at the Mount Rushmore Dramatic Society.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if it was Time, but I don't say anything to them. I mean, everybody's entitled to their opinion.
Right. But your films have grossed something like, somebody told me, around $200 million, which is incredible around the world. I don't know anybody who does that.
I don't know what the exact figures are. I read in a publication the other day, they had it broken down into various forms, but critics are just like anybody else. They have their opinion, and you hope it's very flattering to your ego if they happen to say, well, fine, I really think this guy did a marvelous job, and you see it in print and it pumps you up for a second. But the main thing is, how does the public accept it?
Because if you let the critics get to you, you can really go around with a king-size knot in your stomach all the time.
Right, exactly.
So you kind of have to just say, hey, forget it.
A lot of barium tests.
Yes, you've been through that, have you? The barium test, that's a lot of fun. I do a whole monologue thing in my act on that about taking the barium test. When did the term spaghetti western first take effect? Now, those were the westerns, obviously, that were made in Italy. The Fistful of Dollars you made over there was very big, and others, of course. But when was the first time you heard that specific term used to describe
Well, they used to call, I think the Japanese termed them macaroni westerns when they first came out. They came out over there before they did here. At least Fistful of Dollars did, because it was held up in litigation due to a lot of problems in this country. So they called them macaroni westerns, and then somebody else grabbed them,
Right.
the spaghetti westerns, which was logical because they were Italian productions, though they were filmed in Spain.
Right. Now, did they dub in Italian for those pictures for the foreign market? Did you make them in
Italians
English?
dub every picture. If you're filming a picture in Italy and it's being filmed in Italian, they dub it anyway. They just cue track it. In other words, they've got a mic here like this, and he gets a cue track, and then later on you come in and do a clean track later.
Oh, I see. So none of the very
So
little
they're
of the
used to
dialogue
it,
is
and,
done.
and they're sensational at it. They can sit and completely dub a show, and they've got actors who are trained, Italian actors who are trained to seeing movements of the mouth in English and syncing it in. And Japan the same way.
I've seen some of them. They do remarkable work.
Sensational.
Let me take a break here, and we will come right back.